The most dangerous thing you can do when you're in pain is speak too soon. Taylor Swift didn't just survive heartbreak, she mastered silence. While the world demanded a reaction, she waited, she worked, and she transformed her pain into art that conquered the world. This is not a story about fame. It's a story about control, emotional control. Because sometimes the loudest power you have is the power to stay silent when it hurts the most. Chapter 1. Stop reacting. Start composing. Pain tempts you to speak. Power tempts you to create. And that difference, that single decision between reaction and composition, determines who controls the story. Taylor Swift learned that early. When the world hurt her, she didn't rush to scream, to post, to explain. She didn't fight for understanding. She built evidence. She turned heartbreak into history. She turned silence into strategy. That's the lesson right here, right now. Don't react. Refine. Don't argue. Build. The first instinct is the trap. When pain hits, your instinct is to defend, to prove your side, to get the last word. That's how most people lose power. They spend their energy trying to control how others see them, instead of mastering who they're becoming. Taylor didn't do that. She didn't chase validation, she chased creation. Instead of reacting to betrayal, she built something timeless from it. Think of her all too well. That song wasn't a reaction, it was a composition. It wasn't an emotional outburst. It was evidence, crafted, refined, sharpened. And that's your work too. When you're hurt, pause. When you're angry, wait. Because every word you say in reaction costs you focus, costs you reputation, costs you momentum. You have a choice. Spend your energy reacting, or spend your energy creating. That's the key. The power of redirection. Taylor once said, "Band-aids don't fix bullet holes." She understood that quick reactions don't heal. They only hide. She learned to redirect pain into purpose. Every breakup, every betrayal, every headline became a studio session. Every insult became a lyric. Every silence became a storm she was quietly preparing. That's how power works. You redirect it. You take emotional chaos and you compose structure. When you get criticized, write something better. When you get dismissed, build something stronger. When you get excluded, design your own table. That's how you win. Not by reacting, but by redirecting. You have a choice. You can waste the moment defending your worth, or you can build something that proves it without a word. Don't react. Refine. Don't argue. Build. Reaction is cheap. Creation is expensive. Anyone can react. That's why reaction is cheap. It costs nothing to get angry online. It costs nothing to argue, gossip, or rant. But creation, that's expensive. It costs your discipline, your restraint, your patience. That's why most people never get past reaction. They can't afford the price of silence. Taylor paid that price. She took her emotions to the studio, not to social media. While others were guessing her next move, she was making it. That's power. Not noise. Control. You don't need their permission to rise quietly. You don't need their attention to create your next masterpiece. You don't need validation to build something that outlasts the conversation. Silence is a studio. You don't need a microphone to make music. You need silence, because silence is where you compose. That's where ideas breathe. That's where pain turns into structure. Taylor's silence wasn't weakness. It was rehearsal. It was planning. It was turning heartbreak into harmony. And that's your lesson. When life hurts, Don't run to explain. Don't run to fix. Don't run to prove. Go to your studio, whatever your studio is. Your notebook, your laptop, your business plan, your gym. Go there and build. You have a choice. Speak your pain or shape it. One gets applause for a day. The other builds legacy for decades. That's the difference between noise and music, between reaction and composition, between chaos and mastery. Pain is raw material. Pain isn't the enemy. Undirected pain is. Taylor didn't avoid emotion. She used it. Every heartbreak became melody. Every betrayal became lyric. Every misunderstanding became marketing. That's emotional alchemy, turning hurt into history. But here's the key. She didn't rush it. She waited until the pain had meaning, until it could be shaped, refined, turned into something intentional. That's the discipline you need. You don't post in pain. You don't perform in pain. You prepare in pain. Because pain is raw material. It's energy waiting for a form. But if you react too soon, you waste it. If you refine it, you transform it. Don't react. Refine. Don't argue. Build. The world will always try to pull you out of focus. Understand this. The world thrives on distraction. It wants your instant reactions, not your long-term vision. It rewards the loud, not the disciplined. It celebrates the reactive, not the composed. But look at the results. Who lasts? Not the loud ones, the consistent ones. Not the emotional ones, the strategic ones. Taylor mastered the art of being misunderstood because she knew clarity would come through output, not explanation. She didn't chase understanding, she built proof. She didn't chase approval, she chased evolution. And that's what you must do. You don't win arguments. You win outcomes. Reaction feeds ego. Composition builds legacy. You want to be right. You want to be seen. You want to defend yourself. We all do. But that's ego. Ego reacts. Vision builds. Taylor could have argued with tabloids. She could have corrected every false story. She didn't. She stayed in the studio. That's why we still sing her songs and forget the scandals. Because when you compose, the world rewrites your reputation for you. You don't have to fight for the narrative. You create something so powerful it becomes the narrative. That's the key. You have a choice. Feed your ego or build your legacy. Speak now, or build something worth listening to forever. Final lesson. The power is in the pause. Every great artist, every great leader, every disciplined person understands the same truth. The pause is power. The wait is wisdom. The silence before the masterpiece is where the transformation happens. So when life provokes you, pause. When you're misunderstood, pause. When you're tempted to react, pause. Because that pause is the birthplace of composure. Taylor's power didn't come from her words. It came from what she didn't say. It came from the discipline to wait until her voice became art. You have that same power. You can stop reacting. You can start composing. You can stop chasing understanding and start building truth. Because in the end, people forget what you said in anger. But they'll never forget what you built in silence. You just mastered the first rule of emotional control. Don't react. Refine. Don't argue. Build. You've learned how silence can become strategy, how restraint becomes reputation. Now it's time to take that mastery one step deeper. You've stopped reacting. Now you'll learn how to disappear and return more powerful than ever. Chapter 2. The Art of Disappearing Before You Return. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is no move at all. You don't disappear to hide. You disappear to evolve. After the noise. After the backlash. After the heartbreak. Taylor Swift didn't fight back. She didn't explain. She vanished. She went silent, and the silence screamed louder than any response ever could. That's not retreat. That's strategy. That's power. Disappearing isn't weakness, it's recalibration. When your reputation feels destroyed, when people misunderstand you, your instinct is to defend yourself. You want to shout your side. You want to correct the record. But here's the truth. When you fight for your reputation in real time, you lose control of it. Taylor learned that the hard way. In 2016, after public feuds, misquotes, and betrayal, the media turned her name into a punchline. She could have posted. She could have explained. She could have fought back. But she didn't. She disappeared. No interviews. No comments. No social media. And in that silence, she did something most people never do. She rebuilt herself. Because you can't heal in front of an audience. You can't evolve under a spotlight. Growth needs privacy. That's the key. The world only respects what it can't predict. Disappearing is not vanishing, it's removing access. When you remove access, you create mystery. And mystery is leverage. When Taylor vanished, the world got confused. They didn't know if she was broken or plotting. They waited. They watched. And when she came back with reputation, with snakes, shadows, and unapologetic power, everyone realized. She wasn't broken. She was reborn. You have that same power. When you stop explaining yourself, people start wondering. When you stop reacting, they start respecting. When you stop showing up everywhere, your next appearance becomes an event. That's how power works. Scarcity breeds value. You don't need to be visible every day. You need to be valuable when you return. Disappear with purpose, not fear. Let's make this clear. Disappearing doesn't mean running away. It means withdrawing with intention. You're not ghosting life. You're going offline to rebuild your operating system. You're not hiding from the world. You're preparing to reintroduce a better version of yourself to it. Taylor didn't vanish out of fear. She vanished out of focus. She used that time to think, to write, to design. She came back not with explanations, but with a masterpiece. When she said, "The old Taylor can't come to the phone right now." Why? Oh, because she's dead. It wasn't just a lyric. It was a declaration. The version that reacted is gone. The version that rebuilds has arrived. That's your move too. You don't owe the world constant access. You owe yourself growth. The 3 phases of powerful disappearance. If you want to disappear with power, not panic, follow this cycle. Phase 1. Detach. Pull away from noise. From validation. From reaction. You don't need to check who's talking about you. You don't need to defend yourself in every conversation. Silence is your new armor. Phase 2. Rebuild. Work in secret. Redefine your habits. Rewrite your story. Taylor didn't waste her disappearance. She used it to sharpen her message and upgrade her mindset. You must do the same. Rebuild the version of you that can't be shaken by opinions. Phase 3. Re-emerge. When you return, don't come back the same. Return with results. With composure. With clarity. Return with something undeniable. You don't announce your comeback. You demonstrate it. That's the key. When you disappear, you break the cycle. Reaction creates dependence. The more you respond, the more you're controlled by those who provoke you. But when you disappear, the cycle breaks. They can't feed off your reactions. They can't predict your moves. They can't drain your focus. That's exactly what Taylor did. Every time she went silent, the media kept spinning stories. But without her input, they lost direction. They talked, and she built. They guessed, and she strategized. They shouted, and she turned that noise into momentum. You have that same choice. You can react to the chatter, or you can use it as background noise while you plan your next era. You have a choice. That's the key. Disappearing is a test of ego. Your ego wants to be seen. Your ego wants to be right. Your ego wants to have the last word. But your evolution, it needs quiet. It needs the dark. It needs the stillness that the ego hates. When Taylor disappeared, people mocked her, said she was finished, said her career was over. But she stayed quiet because she knew the truth. You can't argue with perception. You can only replace it with results. That's why she returned with, "Look what you made me do." Every lyric was a calculated response, but delivered through art, not anger. That's mastery. You don't need their permission to disappear. You don't need their validation to return. You only need your own commitment to evolution. Because disappearing is not weakness. It's maturity. It's saying, "I'm not done. I'm in development." What happens in silence? Silence is uncomfortable, and that's exactly why it's powerful. When the world goes quiet, you start hearing your own voice again. You start seeing your real priorities. That's what Taylor found. In silence, she rediscovered her foundation. Her music. Her message. She came back not seeking approval, but commanding it. That's what disappearing gives you. Clarity. Focus. Authority. It strips away noise until only truth remains. So when you disappear, don't fill that silence with overthinking. Fill it with building. Fill it with learning. Fill it with becoming someone too strong to collapse under criticism again. Stop explaining. Start evolving. You don't owe anyone updates while you rebuild. You don't have to broadcast every phase of your transformation. Taylor didn't post her pain. She processed it. She didn't go live. She went silent. She came back when she had something worth saying, not when she needed something to say. That's what you need to learn. Stop explaining your absence. Stop apologizing for your growth. If they don't understand your silence now, they'll understand your success later. Because real power doesn't ask for attention. It commands it when it's ready. The comeback principle. When you disappear and reappear, the comeback must be undeniable. Taylor didn't come back with a post. She came back with an era. A new sound. A new tone. A new presence. Your return must make the world feel like they underestimated you. Your silence should make your next version look inevitable. That's how you transform a breakdown into a brand new beginning. You disappear to reload. You return to dominate. That's the cycle of growth. That's the rhythm of power. Closing the chapter. So here's your truth. Disappearing isn't defeat. It's design. You step back not to surrender, but to sharpen. You go dark not to vanish, but to glow when it matters. You have a choice. You can keep fighting noise, or you can become the silence that everyone hears. You can react in public, or rebuild in private. Because you don't disappear to hide. You disappear to evolve. And when you return, you don't just come back. You arrive. You mastered the art of withdrawal. Now it's time to master what happens inside that silence, the transformation itself. Chapter 3. Turn emotion into evidence. Pain is loud. Emotion is messy. But mastery? Mastery is quiet, calculated, documented. Taylor Swift didn't just feel. She recorded. She didn't just cry. She composed. And that's the difference between chaos and creation. Every lyric in All Too Well wasn't an outburst. It was evidence. It was proof. Proof that she could take emotion and turn it into something structured, eternal, and powerful. Emotion becomes evidence when it's organized, not exploded. And that's what this chapter is about. Turning your emotion into your evolution. Turning what hurt you into data that builds you. Because you can drown in your feelings, or you can document them. You have a choice. That's the key. Emotion is energy. Direction decides its value. Every emotion carries energy. Anger, sadness, rejection. You can use that energy destructively, or you can use it as fuel. When Taylor wrote All Too Well, 10-minute version, she wasn't begging anyone to feel sorry for her. She was showing you the architecture of her emotion, line by line, layer by layer. She didn't react, she refined. She didn't explode, she edited. That's what you need to learn. Emotion isn't your enemy. Uncontrolled emotion is. The goal isn't to suppress how you feel. The goal is to structure it. Feel it once. Write it twice. Release it when it's ready. That's not poetry. That's a system. The discipline of emotional documentation. You can't change what you don't understand. You can't understand what you refuse to examine. When you're in pain, your instinct is to distract yourself, to move on fast. But Taylor didn't move on, she moved through. She dissected every detail. The scarf, the drive, the tone of a voice. She paid attention, not for nostalgia, but for clarity. You must do the same. Don't run from your pain. Record it. Write down what happened. Write down how it made you feel. Not to blame, but to understand. Because emotion becomes evidence when it's analyzed, not avoided. That's the key. You're not journaling for therapy. You're journaling for transformation. You're not writing to vent. You're writing to verify. You're building a body of evidence that proves how you grow. Feel it once. Write it twice. Release it when it's ready. Your pain is a producer. Let it work for you. Emotion is a powerful producer. It builds stories, movements, revolutions, and sometimes art. Taylor used pain as her co-writer. She let heartbreak collaborate with discipline. That's the formula you need. Emotion gives the fuel. Discipline gives the direction. It's not about being emotional. It's about being intentional with emotion. When something hurts, ask, what is this trying to teach me? What is this showing me about my standards, my boundaries, my values? Every feeling is feedback. Every tear is data. Every heartbreak is an instruction manual, if you're willing to read it. That's how you turn emotion into evidence, by studying it like a scientist, not reacting like a victim. Don't speak it, shape it. You don't have to broadcast every feeling. You don't have to perform your pain. You can process it privately and present it powerfully. Taylor didn't rush to the internet after betrayal. She went to the studio. She let her art speak when the emotion was refined, not raw. That's your assignment. Don't speak your pain. Shape it. Don't react publicly. Reflect privately. Because emotional control doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you decide how your feelings are used. You decide the timing, the tone, the delivery. When she sang, "You call me up again just to break me like a promise, so casually cruel in the name of being honest." That wasn't bitterness. That was clarity. That was emotional architecture. Pain built into poetry. Feel it once. Write it twice. Release it when it's ready. That's the rhythm of growth. Pain without purpose becomes poison. You either use your pain or it uses you. There's no neutral. If you hold on to unprocessed emotion, it becomes resentment. If you explode with unfiltered emotion, it becomes regret. The only way out is through transformation. And transformation requires structure. Taylor didn't turn heartbreak into gossip. She turned it into a Grammy. She didn't weaponize her pain. She organized it. You must do the same. When something hurts you, don't say, "Why me?" Say, "What now? What lesson can I extract? What system can I build? What standard can I raise?" That's how pain pays you back. Emotion becomes evidence when it's shaped into something useful. A song, a lesson, a boundary, a rule for your next chapter. That's the key. The emotional audit. Here's your practice. Your emotional audit. Anytime you feel triggered, do 3 things. Record it. Write down exactly what happened. The facts, not the feelings. Reflect on it. Ask, what does this emotion reveal about what I value? Reframe it. Turn the experience into an instruction. What will you do differently next time? That's what Taylor did, again and again. She didn't just live through emotions. She learned from them. Every song was a report, not a rant. Every album was a documentation of growth. And that's why people relate. Because her evidence became universal. Her emotional documentation turned into human connection. That's what happens when you stop reacting and start recording. You don't need to prove you're hurt. Build proof that you've grown. The world doesn't need your pain on display. It needs your evolution in action. When Taylor said, "I shake it off," she wasn't saying she didn't feel. She was saying she chose not to let emotion define her outcome. And that's the challenge for you. Don't just tell people how much you've been through. Show them what you've built because of it. Don't cry for witnesses. Create results that become your witness. Emotion without evidence fades. Emotion turned into creation lasts. That's how legacy is built. The emotional blueprint. Here's the truth most people never face. You can't outgrow what you don't outthink. Taylor mastered emotional intelligence by turning her feelings into frameworks. That's why every era of her life became a blueprint, not a breakdown. Your job is the same. Stop reacting. Start recording. Stop exploding. Start editing. Stop drowning. Start directing. You don't need to apologize for feeling deeply, but you do need to channel it with precision. Because pain doesn't destroy you. Unprocessed pain does. When you turn it into evidence, it becomes armor. When you build from it, it becomes proof. And proof silences every critic, including your inner one. Final lesson. Your feelings don't define you. Your structure does. Emotion is temporary. Evidence is permanent. When you act out of emotion, you create drama. When you build out of evidence, you create destiny. So feel it once. Write it twice. Release it when it's ready. That's your mantra. That's your system. That's your power. Your emotion is the storm. Your structure is the ship. Without structure, you sink. With structure, you sail. That's what Taylor did. And that's what you can do. Because emotion doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Turning it into evidence, that makes you legendary. You've just learned how to channel your emotion into your evolution, how to stop reacting and start documenting. You've built the foundation of emotional intelligence. Now it's time to protect it. You learn to refine your pain into proof. Now, let's talk about the world that tries to pull that proof apart. Chapter 4. Let them talk. You keep building. They talked. They speculated. They mocked. And Taylor kept building. That's the difference between noise and legacy. Noise fades. Legacy compounds. Every word spoken about you, every rumor, every opinion is a test of focus. And most people fail. They take the bait. They defend. They explain. They post. And in doing so, they stop building. You have to understand something. The world will always talk. That's its job. Your job is to keep building. That's the key. That's the discipline. Because focus isn't proven when it's easy. It's proven when you're under fire and still creating. When Taylor Swift was being called overexposed, she was in the studio. When critics said she was done, she was writing 1989. When people mocked her relationships, she was mastering reputation. Every insult became fuel. Every headline became proof of relevance. She didn't argue, she executed. She didn't clap back, she composed. Because when they talk, you have a choice. Defend your name or design your next victory. You can't do both. That's the key. While they talk, you work. While they question, you grow. Say it again. While they talk, you work. While they question, you grow. Gossip is noise. Your work is signal. And the world always follows the signal. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You need focus. When they talk, they want you distracted. They want you drained. Because every time you respond, you feed them. You turn your power into their entertainment. So, stop performing for the people who don't build. Stop trying to convince the ones who never listen. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be undeniable. Taylor once said in her documentary Miss Americana, "If you fully believe in yourself and you fully know your worth, you don't have to prove it to anyone else." That's it. That's the mindset. You're not in a courtroom. You're in a workshop. You're not defending a reputation. You're crafting a result. And results are louder than rebuttals. Look at Reputation. That album wasn't a press release. It was a masterclass in silent redemption. She didn't respond with tweets. She responded with transformation. She let the work do the talking. And the work shouted louder than any critic ever could. That's the lesson. You let them talk. You keep building. Every time you get dragged into gossip, ask yourself, what could I have built with that energy? Because here's the truth. The time you spend defending yourself could have written a song, started a business, built a body, launched a vision. You traded production for reaction. And that's the enemy of greatness. It's not about silencing the noise. It's about becoming so focused that it can't reach you. That's power. That's the quiet dominance of the greats. When the rumors swirl, when the comments sting, when you feel misunderstood, don't react. Don't post. Don't explain. Build. Every second of restraint compounds into power. Every silent hour adds equity to your next comeback. Because silence isn't weakness. It's storage. You're saving energy for what matters. You're saving fuel for creation. You're not ignoring them. You're outgrowing them. That's what Taylor did. That's what real mastery looks like. And let's make it practical. When they talk, write. When they criticize, create. When they mock, move. Because you can't fight the noise directly. You have to outproduce it. You don't silence the crowd by yelling. You silence them by succeeding. Every single time Taylor came back, she didn't just return. She reinvented. That's the key. She didn't defend the old version of herself. She introduced a new one. That's the move. Stop proving the old you. Start building the next you. Repeat this until it becomes muscle memory. While they talk, I work. While they question, I grow. That's your mantra. That's your armor. Because the longer you let them talk, the more attention they burn on your behalf. The more you stay silent, the more they amplify your mystery. And when you finally return, they listen. Because silence builds suspense, and suspense builds power. Taylor knew it. She weaponized it. She understood that not every storm deserves a statement. Sometimes the only response is evolution. You have to earn that restraint. It takes maturity to let people misunderstand you. It takes vision to keep building in the noise. But that's the trade-off of greatness. The price of focus is misunderstanding. The reward is domination. So ask yourself, are you reacting or are you composing? Are you posting or are you progressing? Are you defending your past or building your next era? You have a choice. That's the power. That's the difference between noise and signal. Let them talk. You keep building. And when you finally step back into the light, you'll realize something powerful. The people who talked the most did the least. The people who doubted you never built anything themselves. And the people who watched you work in silence will remember your rise forever. Because silence, when paired with discipline, becomes your megaphone. Taylor said it best. They told me I was out of style. I came back stronger than a 90s trend. That's not a lyric. That's a strategy. That's power disguised as art. You have the same weapon. Discipline. Focus. Creation. You don't need to explain it. You need to live it. Let them talk. You keep building. And when your next era arrives, they'll realize the truth. They were your background noise. You were composing your symphony. You mastered silence in the storm. Now it's time to understand what that silence creates. Because silence doesn't just protect your energy, it multiplies your impact. You've learned to stay silent. Now, let's talk about how silence becomes momentum. Chapter 5. Revenge is redirection. Revenge isn't reaction. It's redirection. That's the secret no one tells you. They want you to think revenge is loud, a clapback, a public win, a dramatic statement. It's not. True revenge is quiet. It's internal. It's focus turned inward. You don't hit back. You level up. That's the key. Because when you react, you feed them. But when you redirect, you free yourself. Taylor understood this better than almost anyone in modern fame. She didn't waste time fighting rumors, feuds, or headlines. She used them. Every betrayal became blueprint. Every insult became ignition. Every loss became leverage. She turned rejection into redirection. When the world tried to write her story, she didn't respond. She rewrote. That's the art of revenge. You don't fight for control. You take it back through your actions. Remember when Taylor disappeared after being called a snake? She could have fought back. She could have explained. She didn't. She redirected. She came back with reputation, a thunderclap of transformation. She said it herself. There will be no explanation. There will just be reputation. That's redirection. That's mastery. She didn't hit back. She leveled up. She didn't post. She produced. She didn't chase validation. She created victory. And that's what you need to understand. The most powerful revenge isn't about hurting them. It's about healing you. It's about shifting from reaction mode to creation mode. When someone wrongs you, you have a choice. You can stay stuck in the story, or you can start a new one. You can replay the betrayal, or you can rebuild your identity. That's the moment everything changes. Because here's the truth. Revenge that seeks to destroy someone else will destroy you first. But revenge that's rooted in evolution? That's power. That's unstoppable. Think about it. Every time Taylor was cancelled, she came back stronger. 1989 was born from moving on. Reputation was born from being misunderstood. Lover was born from rediscovering peace. Midnights was born from reflection, from owning every version of herself. Every era was a rebirth. Every album, a form of redirection. She didn't look back. She repurposed the pain. You have that same power. You just have to stop reacting. Because the moment you stop needing them to understand, you start moving faster than they can follow. Let's make this real. You got betrayed? Good. Redirect it into boundaries. You got rejected? Perfect. Redirect it into progress. You got criticized? Excellent. Redirect it into competence. That's how you win. You don't throw words. You throw results. You don't burn bridges. You build higher floors. You don't waste your peace chasing fairness in an unfair world. You use what happened to you as material. That's what Taylor did. That's what you must do. Because you don't have time to fight the past when the future's calling your name. When Taylor sang, "Honey, I rose up from the dead, I do it all the time," that wasn't a lyric. That was a declaration, a reminder that she mastered resurrection. Every downfall was a detour toward evolution. You can do the same. Stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" Start asking, "What can I build from this?" That's redirection. That's the mental shift that separates the reactive from the relentless. It's not about revenge. It's about rebirth. Not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself different. Listen carefully. Your enemies want your energy. They want your reaction because your reaction gives them relevance. But your redirection, that makes them irrelevant. When you redirect, you take back the script. You stop being the victim of their actions and start being the author of your evolution. You have a choice. You always do. So when pain hits, don't explode. Channel it. When anger rises, don't vent. Convert it. When you feel like fighting, don't swing. Strategize. Emotion without direction burns you out. Emotion with purpose builds you up. That's the difference. That's the power. Taylor's career proves this truth over and over. She didn't waste her words. She didn't beg for justice. She turned her heartbreaks into harmony. She turned her betrayal into billion-dollar branding. She once said in her NYU commencement speech, "Learn to catch and release. You can't carry all that resentment forever." That's it. That's the practice of redirection. You don't need revenge. You need reinvention. You don't need to prove you're right. You need to become undeniable. It's not about them. It's about you. It's not about payback. It's about purpose. Say it again. Don't hit back. Level up. Here's how you apply it. Pause before you react. When the trigger comes, stop. Breathe. Ask, is this worth my energy? 99% of the time, it's not. Right, don't rant. Document the lesson. Don't dramatize the pain. Turn chaos into clarity. Like Taylor did, emotion became evidence. Build something new. A project. A skill. A version of yourself that's so powerful it makes their betrayal irrelevant. That's the strategy. That's the real revenge plan. You don't destroy them. You outgrow them. You don't respond. You evolve. The best part? When you evolve, the people who once hurt you can't even recognize you. They'll look for the old version they could manipulate and find nothing, because you've outgrown their reach. That's the quiet victory. That's the long game. That's redirection. Taylor turned public humiliation into global domination. You can turn private pain into personal transformation. The blueprint is the same. Silence the noise. Redirect the energy. Keep building. And one day, when they look back and wonder how you did it, you'll know the answer. You didn't fight them. You didn't chase them. You didn't explain yourself. You redirected. You took all that chaos, all that noise, all that hurt, and turned it into power. You didn't win through revenge. You won through reinvention. That's how Taylor did it. That's how you'll do it. Don't hit back. Level up. Because every time you rise from what was meant to break you, you deliver the loudest silence possible. Progress. You've learned how to redirect your pain into purpose. Now it's time to learn how to guard that purpose like a fortress. Because once you start building momentum, distraction will try to creep back in. And you'll need to protect it with everything you have. You've mastered redirection. Now let's talk about protection. Chapter 6. Build a fortress of privacy. Silence isn't secrecy. It's strategy. Privacy isn't hiding. It's protecting. That's the truth people forget in the age of exposure. They confuse visibility with value. They think being seen equals being significant. But Taylor Swift learned early, what the world can't touch, it can't destroy. You don't build greatness in public. You build it behind closed doors. That's the key. Because privacy isn't about distance, it's about discipline. It's about guarding the process that builds you. It's about protecting your peace so your power has room to grow. Taylor mastered the art of mystery. At the height of her fame, she disappeared again and again, not because she was running, but because she was refining. She built a fortress around her life, not walls of fear, but boundaries of focus. You see, when everyone demands access, access becomes your greatest weakness. Every time you overshare, you give the world a piece of your power. Every time you explain, you leak energy. Taylor understood this. She once said, "If they don't know what you're doing, they can't stop it." That's not arrogance. That's awareness. Privacy is not about being secretive. It's about being selective. You get to decide what enters your space, what drains your energy, and what deserves your attention. You have that power. Use it. Let's be real. The culture you live in worships exposure. People post every thought, every meal, every argument, every win, every heartbreak. They trade depth for attention. They crave eyes instead of impact. But impact is built in silence. Impact grows where no one's watching. Every era Taylor created, Red, 1989, Reputation, Lover, was crafted in private. No leaks, no previews, no public input, just discipline, just creation, just control. That's the model. If you want your next level, stop giving the world access to your construction zone. You can't build while being watched. You can't heal while performing. You can't grow while explaining. Protect your process. Guard your growth. Privacy creates power because it creates control. When you keep your moves quiet, no one can sabotage them. When you protect your boundaries, no one can manipulate them. When you maintain mystery, you control perception. That's the key, control. Taylor didn't just control her music. She controlled her image, her narrative, her release dates, even her silence. Every move was intentional. Every pause had purpose. That's not luck. That's leadership. And that's what you need to practice. Strategic privacy. Not fear. Not isolation. Strategy. Here's what that looks like in real life. Don't announce. Move. Stop telling everyone what you're building. Build it. Let results announce you. Don't vent publicly. Process privately. Every rant is an energy leak. Every emotional post is a receipt of weakness. You don't owe the world your emotions in real time. Don't explain your boundaries. Enforce them. Boundaries aren't up for debate. You don't need their permission to protect your peace. That's how you build your fortress. That's how you stay grounded while everyone else burns out chasing validation. Privacy gives you clarity, because when you're not performing, you can finally hear yourself think. And when you hear yourself think, you can finally build what matters. That's how Taylor operates. When the noise got too loud, she stepped back, not to retreat, but to realign. No press, no interviews, no explanations. And when she came back sharper, stronger, quieter, but louder in impact. That's the paradox of privacy. The quieter you become, the more people lean in. You become interesting again. You become unpredictable again. You become powerful again. Because mystery amplifies magnetism. Taylor once said, "Real love is silent. Real change is subtle. Real power is invisible until it's ready." And that's the truth. The loudest lives burn out the fastest. But the steady ones, the ones that guard their peace, endure. You don't need to prove your growth. You need to protect it. You don't need to broadcast your moves. You need to execute them. You don't need applause. You need alignment. Privacy isn't loneliness. It's leadership. You can't lead yourself if the crowd owns your attention. You can't create transformation if everyone's watching your every step. That's the discipline of privacy. That's how the best stay the best. Let's get practical again. When you're tempted to post your progress, pause. Ask yourself, why am I sharing this? If it's for validation, stop. If it's for strategy, proceed. When someone demands an answer from you, pause. Ask yourself, do they need to know, or do they just want control? If it's control, protect yourself. When someone crosses your boundary, pause. You don't owe them explanation. You owe yourself consistency. Because silence can be a sentence. Privacy can be protection. Protect your process. Guard your growth. Taylor once said, "My life is mine, and the parts one share, I choose carefully." That's wisdom. Because when you decide what's sacred, you decide what's safe. Your relationships, your goals, your healing, your next project. Keep them sacred. Keep them protected. When you stop giving the world everything, you start getting something real back. Peace. And peace is the foundation of progress. Because chaos kills focus. And focus is what builds empires. Don't confuse silence with distance. Don't confuse privacy with weakness. You're not shutting the world out. You're filtering it. You're creating a barrier between your becoming and their opinions. You're giving your growth a safe place to unfold. That's not hiding. That's mastering. Taylor's fortress isn't made of secrecy. It's made of standards. And standards are strength. The moment you raise your standards for access, you raise your quality of peace. And peace, over time, compounds into power. So build your fortress. Not to keep the world away, but to keep yourself whole. You have a choice every day. Expose your process for approval or protect it for progress. You know which one wins. It's not about being mysterious for attention. It's about being intentional for longevity. It's not about hiding your light. It's about letting it grow without interference. Privacy protects peace. Peace fuels power. Protect your process. Guard your growth. You've learned how to build your fortress. Now it's time to step into the next layer of power, not just protecting your energy, but directing it. Because silence creates peace, but purpose gives it aim. You've built your fortress. Now let's use that focus to fuel your rise. Chapter 7. When you speak, let it be final. When you finally speak, let it be final. Not a whisper. Not a debate. A declaration. That's what Taylor Swift mastered. She doesn't speak to explain herself. She speaks to end the conversation. She doesn't tweet back. She writes an era. When she finally released Speak Now, Taylor's version, it wasn't about nostalgia. It was about power. It was a full circle announcement. I control my story now. That's the key, control. You have a choice. Every day, people test that choice. They bait you. They push you. They provoke you to react now, to argue now, to defend now. But remember this, silence collects interest. Every word you don't waste becomes power you can spend later, all at once. When Taylor speaks, she speaks in albums, not in arguments. She doesn't leak drafts. She releases history. She once said, "People haven't always been there for me, but music always has." That's not just vulnerability. That's focus. That's redirection. You can do the same. You don't owe anyone your emotional draft. You don't owe anyone your half-built thoughts. You owe yourself mastery of timing, because timing is everything. It's not about reaction. It's about revelation. 1. Don't argue in drafts. You know what weakens people? Endless explanations. Emotional debates typed at midnight. Long paragraphs that begin with, "Let me clarify." Stop doing that. Every time you argue in drafts, you give away your power. You reveal your uncertainty. You prove you're still trying to convince yourself. When Taylor faced betrayal, she didn't log on to justify her feelings. She disappeared. She rebuilt. She wrote, "Look what you made me do." That's not a reaction. That's a rebirth. She turned exposure into execution. The world had questions. She answered with art. The critics had opinions. She answered with ownership. That's the discipline. You have to learn the same restraint. You have to stop responding to everything that pokes you. You have to stop explaining your transformation before it's complete. Don't argue in drafts. Announce in headlines. 2. Speak when you're ready to end the discussion. There's a difference between speaking to be heard and speaking to be remembered. When you speak too soon, people edit you. They dissect you. They twist your message. But when you wait, when you build, when you prepare, your voice becomes undeniable. Taylor's re-recordings weren't rushed. They were strategic. Years of silence, planning, and legal maneuvering led to a single, thunderous statement. My work. My name. My version. That's not chatter. That's finality. You must adopt that same energy in your life. Don't speak until you can own what you say. Don't speak until your message is immune to manipulation. Don't speak until your actions have already proven the point. Because once your actions are evidence, your words become the verdict. That's the power of final speech. 3. Turn every word into weaponry. Words are cheap until they're earned. Taylor spends years earning hers. Every lyric feels carved, not written. Every statement feels measured. She doesn't speak to please. She speaks to place boundaries, to place legacy, to place truth. Her song Mean wasn't about revenge. It was a record of growth. Someday I'll be big enough so you can't hit me. That's not a threat. That's a prophecy. When she finally speaks, she isn't fighting. She's confirming. You can live that way too. Every time you open your mouth, make it mean something. Every time you speak, make it cost something. You have a choice. You can waste words trying to be understood, or you can invest silence building something that speaks for you. That's the key. Silence first. Speech second. Impact last. 4. Control the narrative by controlling the release. The timing of your voice determines its weight. Taylor didn't let the media define her. She waited. She created. She released on her terms. When the world demanded statements, she offered songs. When they wanted apologies, she offered albums. When they wanted gossip, she offered growth. It's not about being mysterious. It's about being intentional. It's about understanding that what's withheld gains value. You don't owe constant commentary. You owe strategic communication. Because when you speak rarely, your voice multiplies in power. That's why The Man hit so hard. She didn't say, "I'm tired of sexism." She said, "I'm so sick of running as fast as I can, wondering if I'd get there quicker if I was a man." Sharp. Final. Universal. Your life can carry that same precision. Don't post every move. Don't broadcast every thought. Don't leak your blueprint before you build it. Master your narrative. Control your release. 5. The power of the final word. Here's the truth. When you master restraint, your words become weapons. Every "I told you so" becomes unnecessary because your success already said it. Every argument dissolves because your growth already closed it. Taylor's final word was never in interviews. It was always in action. She didn't ask for validation. She earned vindication. When she said, "I don't dress for villains or for innocents. I'm a vigilante always taking my time," it wasn't just a lyric. It was her doctrine. Take your time. Build your case. Then deliver your statement so clean, so undeniable, it ends the debate. When you speak, let it be final. 6. Real-world application. The swift method of speech control. Here's how to live this. Step 1. Observe. When triggered, pause. Feel the urge to react. Don't. Breathe instead. Step 2. Redirect. Channel that emotion into creation, a project, a plan, a goal. Step 3. Prepare. Write your truth. Refine your evidence. Craft your message like a lyric, every word intentional. Step 4. Release. When the time is right, make your statement clear, concise, complete. Step 5. Move on. Don't linger. Don't defend. You already said it. That's how Taylor does it. That's how you build credibility. That's how you end noise with certainty. You don't need their permission to speak. You just need to know when to speak and how to end the conversation. So stop posting every emotion. Stop editing yourself mid-growth. Stop seeking applause before the performance is ready. You have a choice: to react like everyone else or to respond like someone in control. It's not about silence. It's about strategy. It's not about fear. It's about finality. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. That's the discipline. Final thought. When you speak, let it be final. Let your words close chapters, not open arguments. Let your voice echo truth, not defense. Because when your voice carries purpose, it doesn't need volume. It commands silence. You've learned to speak with power. Now it's time to listen with wisdom. You mastered your timing. Now let's talk about what happens inside that silence. Chapter 8. Master the pause. The pause before reaction is where mastery lives. The world worships speed, but power, real power, comes from stillness. Taylor Swift understands that better than anyone. She doesn't fill every silence. She uses it. She doesn't rush between eras. She builds them. Every pause between her albums wasn't absence. It was alchemy. She wasn't gone. She was growing. That's the key. Silence isn't weakness. It's weaponry. You have a choice: to react fast like everyone else, or to pause, think, and act like a strategist. When Taylor vanishes from the public eye, it isn't retreat. It's recalibration. While the world speculates, she prepares. While they post, she plans. While they guess, she writes the next version of herself. The pause is power. The wait is wisdom. 1. The discipline of the delay. Instant reaction is emotional. Calculated response is powerful. That's what separates the impulsive from the intentional. It's not about hesitation. It's about holding the frame. You don't owe the world immediate access to your energy. You don't owe people immediate reactions, explanations, or emotions. You owe yourself composure. Every time you pause, you buy clarity. Every time you hold back, you regain control. Taylor did that after the media storm of reputation. She didn't run to defend herself. She disappeared. No interviews, no explanations, just a black screen and a snake emoji. And then, reputation dropped. A full statement. Sharp. Final. Legendary. She didn't rush to speak. She waited until her art could speak louder. That's mastery. You have the same choice. You can fire off that angry message. You can post that emotional reaction. You can demand to be understood now. Or you can pause. You can gather. You can create. You can transform. That's not silence. That's strategy. 2. Stillness is the training ground. People fear silence because it forces them to face themselves. But Taylor turned silence into her studio. Between 1989 and Reputation, she was quiet. People said she'd disappeared. They were wrong. She was just in her pause. That's where mastery is built, in the invisible phase, the unseen hours, the quiet work, the private notes, the erased drafts. That's where she refined her sound, her image, her armor. The pause is where she shed her old skin. That's what you must learn to do. When you pause, don't scroll, don't spiral, don't explain, train, refocus, redesign. When you pause, you edit your life. You cut noise. You remove clutter. You silence the chaos until truth becomes audible. That's the key. Silence sharpens signal. 3. Every pause builds pressure. Taylor's career is a masterclass in controlled pressure. When she disappears, anticipation builds. When she pauses, the world waits. When she finally returns, the release is explosive. That's not coincidence. That's architecture. Every pause she takes is intentional tension, a quiet inhale before the next storm. You can do the same. Don't announce every move. Don't reveal every plan. Don't drain your energy explaining what's next. Hold it. Guard it. Let the tension build until your next action demands attention. That's power. That's control. You have to learn to tolerate the discomfort of the pause. Most people can't. Most people rush to fill silence with noise, validation, or apology. Don't be like most people. Be like the architect. Be like the strategist. Be like Taylor. Because pressure during the pause becomes momentum at release. 4. The pause between emotion and action. This is where most people lose themselves, the seconds between feeling and reacting. Someone insults you. Someone betrays you. Someone misunderstands you. Your instinct says, strike back, defend, explain, stop, pause. That pause is your power. That's where your wisdom hides. It's not about suppressing emotion, it's about processing it. Taylor doesn't deny her emotions. She documents them. All Too Well wasn't written in a moment of explosion. It was crafted through reflection, through editing, through pause. Emotion became evidence because it passed through stillness first. You can do the same. Before you reply, breathe. Before you post, reflect. Before you react, ask, what's the outcome I want? If it's peace, the pause will get you there faster than any argument. If it's growth, the pause will give you room to build. You have a choice. React and regret, or pause and power up. That's the discipline. 5. Pausing doesn't mean waiting forever. Let's make one thing clear. Pausing isn't paralysis. The pause is preparation, not procrastination. Taylor's pauses always had purpose. Every time she went silent, she was building. While others burned out, she recharged. While others defended themselves online, she was in the studio, designing the next era. You don't pause to escape. You pause to sharpen. You don't stop to rest forever. You stop to realign. Your pause must have direction. Ask yourself, what am I learning in this silence? What am I creating while I wait? What will I return with that no one saw coming? That's how the pause becomes a weapon instead of a weakness. Taylor once said, if you're lucky enough to be different, don't ever change. That difference, that deliberate quiet in a world addicted to noise, is your edge. 6. The real-world application. How to master the pause. Let's turn this into action. Here's the method. Step 1. Catch the impulse. When you feel that emotional spike, stop. Don't react. Don't type. Don't talk. Just breathe. Step 2. Channel the energy. Write it down. Journal it. Sing it. Paint it. But keep it private, for now. Step 3. Clarify the message. Ask, what's the truth beneath this emotion? What needs to be expressed, and what's just noise? Step 4. Edit your response. Like Taylor edits her lyrics, edit your life. Remove words that don't serve you. Remove moves that don't advance you. Step 5. Deliver with impact. When you finally act or speak, do it cleanly. No explanations. No backtracking. One move. One statement. Final. That's the swift way. That's the path to power. 7. The hidden reward of stillness. When you learn to pause, something shifts. You stop needing external permission. You stop chasing validation. You start building conviction. Because in the quiet, you finally hear yourself. In the stillness, you find direction. That's why Taylor's silence is never empty. It's full of design. The pause is where your next chapter starts forming. It's where your best ideas arrive. It's where you outgrow what no longer fits. When you pause, you upgrade your perspective. You start to see that not every battle needs your presence. Not every noise deserves your name. You rise above reaction. You reclaim authorship. And when you return, the world will know it. 8. Closing the loop. You have a choice. You can live in constant reaction, fast, frantic, forgettable. Or you can master the pause, slow, deliberate, unstoppable. It's not about being still. It's about being strategic. It's not about silence. It's about sovereignty. It's not about delay. It's about direction. Taylor's power wasn't just in what she said, it was in when she said it. Remember. Chapter 9. Emotional control is creative control. Control your emotion. Control your empire. That's the key. You can't create from chaos. You can't build from breakdown. You can't lead from reaction. Every time you let emotion run wild, you hand your power to the moment. You become a puppet of impulse. And impulse burns empires down faster than betrayal ever could. Taylor Swift learned that early. The more she controlled her emotion, the more she controlled her story. She didn't cry online. She didn't post breakdowns. She composed. She didn't fight for understanding. She built for clarity. That's the truth. The more you manage your emotions, the more you own your narrative. That's not suppression. That's strategy. Taylor didn't rise because she avoided emotion. She rose because she directed it. Pain became lyrics. Anger became energy. Silence became suspense. That's what emotional control really is. Not denial, but direction. You don't bury your emotion. You build with it. You don't explode. You compose. 1. Emotion is energy. You choose the direction. Emotion is not weakness. It's raw fuel. But raw fuel, without focus, burns everything it touches. Every heartbreak, every humiliation, every insult, it carries power. But power without purpose is just noise. Taylor never let emotion leak through chaos. She channeled it into craft. That's why All Too Well wasn't a diary entry. It was a blueprint of emotional control. Every line was calculated. Every beat was disciplined. Every memory was edited into melody. That's what mastery looks like. That's what control sounds like. You have that same choice. When pain hits, you can react, or you can refine. When you're disrespected, you can lash out, or you can level up. You can either spill emotion everywhere or shape it into something valuable. That's the key. Control your emotion. Control your empire. 2. The cost of losing control. Let's be blunt. You can't build legacy in emotional chaos. You can't write your story if you keep rewriting your reactions. Taylor understood that every public breakdown comes at a price. The tabloids feed on impulse. The world profits from your loss of control. So she stopped giving them the show. She stopped feeding the noise. She turned the energy inward. That's the lesson. When you withhold emotional chaos from the world, you multiply creative clarity within yourself. Think about it. Every argument you avoid, every fight you don't enter, every tweet you don't post, adds up to one thing: power saved. Emotional control is energy conservation. You stop wasting power defending your feelings and start investing it into your vision. That's how Taylor rebuilt her empire after the lowest moments of her career. She didn't scream back. She didn't beg the public to see her side. She rebuilt silently. She wrote strategically. She returned stronger. Because she knew, if they control your emotions, they control your story. And Taylor doesn't hand her story to anyone. 3. From reactivity to refinement. There's a difference between feeling emotion and being owned by it. The first makes you human. The second makes you helpless. Taylor was never emotionless. She was emotionally fluent. She learned to translate heartbreak into business, disappointment into design, pain into performance. When reputation dropped, it wasn't rage. It was refinement. It wasn't, "You hurt me." It was, "I've evolved past needing your validation." That's the difference between reactivity and refinement. Reactivity says, "Look what you did to me." Refinement says, "Look what I did with it." You have that choice every day. When emotion surges, stop asking, "Why me?" Start asking, "What now?" That question turns emotion into momentum. Because it's not about being cold, it's about being clear. It's not about suppressing emotion, it's about selecting your outlet. Taylor didn't delete her emotion. She redirected it into a masterpiece. You can do the same. 4. The emotional budget. You have limited energy. Every reaction costs you. Every emotional spiral drains you. Taylor learned to spend her emotion like money. Intentionally, selectively, productively. That's emotional budgeting, and it's the foundation of creative control. If you spend your emotion on people who don't matter, you'll have nothing left for the work that does. If you pour your anger into arguments, you'll have no fire left for creation. You have to treat your emotion like capital. Invest it where it compounds. Withdraw it where it leaks. Taylor invested emotion into her art, and it paid back in albums, in tours, in transformation. That's how you turn emotional energy into creative equity. That's how you build something that outlasts the feeling. You don't need their permission. You don't need their apology. You just need discipline. Because it's not about emotion, it's about endurance. 5. Control is confidence. When you master your emotion, you exude control. And control communicates confidence. Silently. Taylor's poise in interviews, her precision in words, her timing in releases, that's not luck. That's emotional regulation. She speaks when ready. She releases when complete. Every move feels deliberate because every emotion has already been processed privately. That's what gives her presence weight. Because people can sense when you're centered. They can feel when you're not reacting to their noise, but responding to your mission. Emotional control earns respect, even from critics. It shifts you from reactor to director. And that's what creative control truly is, authorship over emotion. You decide what your pain becomes. You decide what your anger builds. You decide how your silence speaks. You don't wait for peace. You manufacture it. You don't hope for calm. You train it. That's confidence. That's control. 6. How to train emotional control, the Swift method. Let's turn this into action. Here's your framework, the Swift method of emotional mastery. Step 1. Feel it privately. Don't deny it. Don't post it. Don't broadcast it. Feel it fully, but in solitude. Give your emotion a container, a notebook, a melody, a moment alone. Step 2. Translate it into structure. Write about it. Record it. Reflect on it. Ask, what's the message here? What's the meaning I can extract? Step 3. Refine before release. Never express emotion raw. Edit it. Shape it. Turn pain into poetry. Turn chaos into clarity. Step 4. Present it when powerful. Taylor never shares mid-chaos. She shares post-clarity. That's why her voice commands attention. It's steady. Step 5. Repeat. Each cycle builds strength. Each pause before reaction builds emotional muscle. That's the discipline that turns emotion into evidence. 7. The result. Ownership. When you master your emotion, you master your narrative. When you master your narrative, you master your destiny. That's how Taylor turned heartbreak into a billion-dollar brand. She didn't lose herself to impulse. She built herself through intention. Every outburst avoided was an empire preserved. Every restraint practiced was reputation regained. It's not about being robotic. It's about being ruthlessly intentional. Because the truth is simple. You can't build legacy from chaos. You build it from composure. You have a choice. React and lose control. Or regulate and take command. Control your emotion. Control your empire.